Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call to order the Lake Havasu City regular meeting on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. We'll now have an invocation from Chaplain B. Evans from KNLB Christian Radio, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Haven, the Havasu Abuse Victims Education Network.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, that we can still walk into your throne room asking you anything and you listen to us. Father, doesn't your word say the confidence we have? If we ask anything according to your will, you hear us. And because you hear us, we have our petition. So tonight, Lord, we're just going to lift up our city, Lake Havasu. We love it, and we know you do. We're going to lift up the people of Lake Havasu, and certainly the city council, which loves your people, and tonight are going to hold some of these things in the palm of their hand as they make decisions. So, Father, I just pray that they hear that still small voice, that their yes will be yes. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you go to the microphone.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. And we have Jeff Sayre from, is the Vice President of Haven. Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to share a little bit about your organization.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. First, I'd like to introduce the Director of Haven, Mary Lou, and Board Member Vicki Sayre, my wife. And I'd just like to read this information and let you know a little bit about Haven. Haven Family Resources Center is a nonprofit family advocacy center that has been providing safe environment for families in need to access services and resources since 2001. Haven provides services for families in crisis and victims of all crimes. While the majority of the crimes we respond to are child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault, we also assist victims of robberies, assaults, home invasions, shootings, survivors of homicide, suicide, drownings, and all violent, nonviolent person crimes. Staff is available 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. We also provide on-scene crisis response where trained advocates go to the hospital, medical centers, courts, and accompany law enforcement to residential scenes to assist families in crisis. In addition to crisis services, Haven also oversees the Mojave County Child Abuse Prevention Councils, which provides community outreach and education and Food for Kids program, and other educational services to better meet the needs of the community. The Food for Kids program provides foods for homeless and at-risk children on the weekends. Haven Family Resource Center is a fully accredited member of the National Children's Alliance and the Arizona Child and Family Advocacy Center Network, as well as the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. We offer tours of our facility, so anytime any of you'd like to come and take a tour, just get a hold of Mary Lou and we'd be happy to give you one. We ask that you please call to schedule a time due to the nature of our business. More information can also be found on our website and our Facebook page. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We ask the community to join us on Saturday, October 14th at 7:30 a.m. for the 10th annual Save a Life Domestic Violence Awareness Walk at Rotary Park. Anyone interested in participating can visit our website for the registration link or contact the center. We walk to raise awareness about intimate partner violence, honor victims, support survivors, and provide resources to the community. And we appreciate the city's partnership through all the years. And I'd like to thank you for the time and thank you for your support for our organization.
Yeah, thank you for being here and thank you for all the work you do. Yeah. All right, the next item on the agenda is our roll call. Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell.
Here.
Michelle Lynn.
Here.
Cameron Moses.
Here.
Jenny Koch. Here. Jim Dolan.
Here.
Vice Mayor David Lane.
Here.
Mayor Cal Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is our consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Koch,
motion?
please.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and we have a second from Vice Mayor Lane. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next item is item 6, which is correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. Starting with item 6.1 is our fiscal year 2022-23 fourth quarter contracted agency reports. Chief Sterling has included these in our packet for our information. And unless there are any questions, we'll have them on file for the record. All right, seeing now, we'll move on to item 6.2, which is announced vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, there are several vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Airport Advisory Board, 1 pilot alternate member. Board of Adjustment, 2 regular members, 2 alternate members. And the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 student member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall. They are also available on the city's website at lhcaz.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.3 is our city manager's report. Good evening, Mr. Knudsen.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Last Friday night was a tough night for Havasu and the Fighting Knights. The Mojave Thunderbirds and the Havasu Fighting Knights played in the annual Golden Shovel game. While the Fighting Knights have won the game every single year since 2012, and the vast majority of all the Golden Shovel games over the years, sadly, the Thunderbirds beat our Fighting Knights this year. Which leads me to the reason why I'm sitting here, miserable, having to wear a Mojave Thunderbirds jersey. Toby Cotter is my counterpart at Bullhead City, and based on our love for our respective communities, our schools, and our local athletic programs, we made a bet that the loser of the Golden Shovel game must wear the other team's school colors at the next city council meeting. I'd like to thank Toby Cotter for providing me with the jersey that almost fits. But we'll get him next year. Thank you for River Seat Magazine for the photograph. On a much more serious note, Mayor and Council, we'd like to highlight a couple of retirements tonight, starting with Officer Stanley, who is retiring tomorrow after serving our community for over 23 years. Aaron served in the United States Marine Corps as a reservist from March 94 through March of 2000 and achieved the rank of sergeant in 1998. Aaron was hired as a police officer trainee in November of 1999, completed the academy in March of 2000, and was promoted to senior police officer in March of 2003. Aaron also served as a detective in SIU for a period of time. Thank you, Aaron, for your service to Lake Havasu City, and thank you for your service to our country in the United States Marine Corps. Congratulations, and wish you the best of luck in your retirement. Thank you. And tonight, we sadly say goodbye to a very familiar face at our Planning and Zoning Commission meetings and our council meetings. Luke Morris is retiring on September 29th with 23 years of service in public planning. He'll be giving his last presentation to the City Council this evening in just a few minutes. We hired Luke as a code enforcement officer 12 years ago. During his tenure here, he became a city planner, later worked his way up to planning division manager position that he achieved in 2021. We're very fortunate to have him as long as we did, and we congratulate Luke Morris and wish him well in his retirement as well. Mayor and Councilmember Moses recognized former mayor and Lake Havasu City pioneer Chuck Lingerfeld for his dedication and 53 years of service to the Rotary Club and the community. In his honor, the mayor proclaimed August 28th as Chuck Langerfeld Day in Lake Havasu City. Chuck was an entrepreneur, owner of a radio station, insurance agent, mortgage lender, realtor, a builder, automobile dealer, a car collector, and even owner of a minor league baseball team called the Helena Gold Sox. Most notably, he served as elected as a council member of Lake Havasu City as he was elected March of 1987 and elected mayor in the general election in May of 1991. Thank you, Chuck, for your leadership and friendship to Lake Havasu City for 53 years. Mayor and council and staff, we all celebrated the Aloe's opening at the ribbon cutting ceremony held at their new storefront located on Main Street just a few weeks ago. And the community attended the 9/11 ceremony just yesterday. Thank you to the 9/11 committee for putting on the event every year so that we can all gather as a city to remember and never forget that tragic day. Keynote speakers included Mayor Cal Sheehy and our Judge Mitch Kalali. It was great to see more youth participation this year with Our Lady of the Lake Catholic School and Thunderbolt Junior High School chorus groups. And this year's fire cadets were in attendance. Through the 9/11 committee suggestions, Steve Blake with Lake Havasu City, our digital media coordinator, live streamed the event on our city's YouTube channel so the Lake Havasu Unified School District students could watch. If you weren't able to attend the event, you can go to the city's YouTube channel and watch it. And just this morning, because of the efforts of Vice Mayor David Lane, the military moms and Gold Star mothers watched Masonry and More install the new S added to the soldier statue at Wheeler Park. If you recall, anybody that's been to that site lately or last couple of years, there was a huge crack that was going down the S in the USA. Steve Tickner, Veterans Thrift Store, Elks Lodge 2399, Rick Foster, the Marine Corps League Detachment 757, and Lake Havasu City military moms all donated to cover the $1,615 needed to replace the S. Naomi from Bradbury Memorial Center sourced and ordered the new S and had it shipped here. And Masonry and More installed it at no charge. This is just in time for the upcoming annual Gold Star Mothers event, which will be held on Sunday, September 24th. Thank you to all that were involved in this wonderful project. And lastly, the Havasu Youth Advisory Council reminds the public that the opening night for the Echo Group Band of Brothers Arizona Veterans Softball League is Saturday, September 30th, and that'll be at 6 p.m. at the Sarah Park Ball Fields. Merchandise will be sold at the event by our Havasu Youth Advisory Council to help fundraise for our veterans. Everyone is encouraged to attend to support our local veterans and watch for the first time a game between the Band of Brothers California and the Band of Brothers Arizona teams. The league offers our veterans peer-to-peer mentoring, camaraderie, and purpose. It gives them a reason to leave isolation and connect with their brothers and sisters, lowering the suicide rate amongst our most vulnerable veterans. The Lake Havasu Youth Advisory Council thanks their sponsors so far, which include the Sunland Asphalt, Bradley Auto Group, the Elks and Elkettes of 2399, the Military Devil Dogs, and Lynn's Little China. For more information about the Echo Band of Brothers Arizona Softball League, please visit their website at echovets.org or contact Stacy Lee at 805-757-8223. And with that, Mayor, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Knudsen. All right, we'll move on to item 7, our public hearings. Starting with item 7.1 is adopt ordinance number 23-1317, approving a planned development rezone, amending the approved development plan, PD 20-00200001 for 3180 and 3190 McCulloch Boulevard North. In a single-family residential plan development district to allow 4 accessory buildings consisting of 2 at 25 feet, 1 at 20 feet, and 1 at 16 feet in height measured from the building's grade, in addition to the previously approved 30-foot main sanctuary. Good evening, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public tonight. This particular application, let me advance this one slide to start here. Located at 3180 McCulloch Boulevard North. It's the Hilltop Church. In 2019, let me advance this. two slides here. 2019, the Hilltop Church proposed a plan to the city for what they viewed as their future expansion of that church site. And that was approved in 2020 as a planned development rezone. And since 2020, this plan that you see up here no longer meets their needs. So as a result of that, they submitted this plan here in 2023. It was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission on August 23rd. There was very little public comment received. And there's a few things I want to point out. There are a few conditions of approval. Let me take a couple steps back here to our slides. The zoning is R1PD, so there's no change in the zoning here. They're just requesting the approval of a new plan for their site. And of course, the location that went over earlier, so everybody gets a sense of where it's at in Lake Havasu. So advancing to the current plan, the important thing to point out on here in the main difference from the previous plan, there were some overheight buildings on the previous plan. The new one, if you look at the site section view at the bottom, all the buildings that they're planning to add are going to be under the height limit with the exception of two. One's the sanctuary that's already approved at 30 feet, and that's the main sanctuary building you see on the east side, the right side of the upper drawing here. And then the office building, which will be at 16 feet, that will be 1 foot over the 15-foot normal height limit. So they're looking for an exception on that. But these other buildings of 20 and 25 feet are under the 115.5 established grade that was established years ago for the site. So there's nothing in the way of exceptions being requested. Parking the site is way over parked for what the city ordinances require. And they'll be required to submit landscaping with the design review phase. There are a few conditions contained in here as well. Staff recommends approval with these conditions. Do you want me to go over them, Mr. Mayor, or will they be?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The development shall substantially match the development plan provided with the request. The site is limited to those buildings shown on the development plan unless additional public hearings are held, public notice given. The two properties in the plan development shall be combined into one property, and they are two parcels right now, and that will be something we'll make sure gets done. Number 4, a sanctuary building shall be no taller than 30 feet from the maximum grade of 115.5, and that's established right here by this dashed line, as I indicated earlier. The sanctuary building will be 30 feet, 60 on this one. These will be under that line. Except for the proposed sanctuary building, all other buildings will be limited to 16 feet, 20 feet, 25-foot building heights from the pad elevations shown on the development plan. And finally, design review for compliance with the development code and the conditions of this approval shall be required for the project prior to building permit issuance. Mr. Mayor, I'll answer any questions you may have. That completes my report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Yeah, so in front of us, this item initially came in plan development in 2019. In our packet, of course, is that ordinance that was approved with these changes. Planning and zoning, as Mr. Gilbert mentioned, has heard this item. Is coming to us with the recommendation of 7-0 from our Planning and Zoning Commission. And there also was a neighborhood meeting that was held as part of the process, and there was no objections from the neighborhood. Are there any questions for members of the council for Mr. Gilbert before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? If so, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor?
Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, I move to adopt ordinance number 23-1317, approving a plan development rezone amending the approved development plan PD 20-002-00001 for 3180 and 3190 McCulloch Boulevard North, Tract 125, Parcel H, and Tract 123, Block 8, Lot 1, in the single-family residential plan development district R1PD with the following conditions. The development shall substantially match the August 2nd, 2023 development plan provided with the request. The site is limited to those buildings shown on the August 2nd, 2023 development plan unless additional public hearings are held and public notice given. The two properties in the planned development shall be combined into one property. The sanctuary building shall be no taller than 30 feet from the maximum grade of 115.50 feet that has been established for the property. Except for the proposed sanctuary building, all other buildings will be limited to the 16-foot, 20-foot, and 25-foot building heights from the pad elevations as shown on the development plan. And design review for the compliance with the development code and the conditions of this ordinance shall be required for the project prior to the building permit issuance.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, the next item is item 7.2, adopt ordinance number 23-1318, amending city code section 14.04.02.c, parking and loading to amend dwelling multifamily parking standards and how fractions of parking space calculations are rounded. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I prepared a few bullet points here to encapsulate this since this has been discussed at great length over the last few months. With the increased number of multifamily developments within the city, this council requested the Planning Commission to review and discuss the parking standards for multifamily zoning and for this recommendation. The commission reviewed the standards at its April 19, 2023, May 17, 2023 meetings and forwarded a recommendation to leave the parking requirements unchanged. City Council received the Planning Commission recommendation at its July 25th, 2023 meeting. Following extensive discussion, the council voted unanimously to return a direction to the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing to amend these parking requirements to the standards that previously existed in 2016, that's prior to the current development code, based upon the size of the multifamily unit. Additionally, the City Council directed rounding up in all cases on fractional parts of spaces and to retain the covered parking requirements. And this was all reviewed by the Planning Commission on August 16th and was unanimously recommended for approval to the City Council. I have a couple more slides here just showing the actual text change. And in 14.04.02, C1B, when calculating parking spaces for any use has been added. Requirements for a fraction of a parking space shall be, with ignored strike, rounded up to the next highest whole number. That's one of the changes. Advancing the slide, the next major change is in Table 4.02-1, which contains the minimum required off-street parking standards. And if you look down here, here we go, under dwelling multifamily, we've stricken the language that was there and replaced it with 1 space per dwelling unit containing an efficiency unit, 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit containing 1 bedroom, and 2 spaces per dwelling unit containing 2 bedrooms or more, and then retain plus 1 space per 5 dwelling units for visitor parking, and at least 1 space per unit must be covered. And that was all consistent with the direction from the council at its last meeting. Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything more to add on this other than staff recommends approval.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for the report. We have been discussing parking for quite some time. And our Planning and Zoning Commission took the issue up and didn't make any recommendations to the council. However, members of our Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as members of our council, would continue to vote things down because there wasn't enough parking, but the person was coming forward meeting our parking requirements. So something was out of line. And so we knew we had to still address that. So the council had a discussion, as Mr. Gilbert mentioned, making some really common sense, easy adjustments, which, the rounding up, having multiple units or multiple spaces if you have more than 1 bedroom in the unit, which really reverts back to the development code back prior to 2016. So it goes to, we were able to model some of the other developments that were built that folks believe has enough parking, and that's what's in front of us tonight. Because the council had that discussion and we rely on our Planning and Zoning Commission, we sent it back to our Planning and Zoning Commission just to have a discussion to make sure that they were on board with that thought and the direction that we were going. They did. This is now coming back to us at a 7-0 recommendation from our Planning and Zoning Commission. And of course, it's in front of us this evening for any additional discussion on this part of the code section. With that being said, do any members of the council have any questions for Mr. Gilbert or on the item? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? If so, just please make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Dolan,
motion.
please.
I move to adopt ordinance number 23-1318, amending City Code Section 14.04.02.c, parking and loading, to amend dwelling, multifamily parking standards, and how fractions of parking space calculations are rounded.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, item 7.3 is adopt resolution number 23-3703, supporting the preservation and enhancement of public recreational use of and access to the shoreline in Lake Havasu City. Good evening, Mr. Morris.
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you. As city manager is so kind to point out, this is most likely my final presentation before this board. I appreciate all the time I've been given to work for the city and for the citizens and for the council and the commission. So I really appreciate that a lot. And you can be as kind or as mean to me today as you like. So that's great. That's good. So
we're always kind.
All right, thank you. Just a little bit of background information. Here's a map that shows the ownership of all the property around the city, private, state, BLM, and otherwise. As you'll see, Lake Havasu is surrounded by federal and state lands. In that case, the city itself is like an island. I'm going to compare that now with the island itself. Like the island as a whole, like the city as a whole, the island is also surrounded by state land on the exterior of the island, except for a few private holdings within the interior and city property of the rest of the shoreline along the lake, and the majority of the Body Beach area is owned by the state. With the state's upcoming public auction of the previous golf course at the Nautical, the topic of public access and use of the shoreline has arisen. So go over a little brief overview of the history of the city and shoreline access and preservation. Planning for the island shoreline began in 1987 with the city's first general plan. In 1991, a policy to preserve and enhance public access and use of the shoreline was adopted. The planning continued throughout the 1990s with the adoption of something called the Island Specific Plan. In 2002, that Island Specific Plan was absorbed into the 2002 General Plan. And then in 2016, the current General Plan was adopted. That update included the language from the 2002 General Plan, and it encourages creation of an open space and trail system, including parking, information, and comfort stations along the shoreline. Also, that 2016 General Plan added a resort-related designation, which on this map is shown as the purple. That was a brand new designation, and most of the shoreline has the designation on the island. That designation promotes things like public access easements, view corridors, and pathways to be incorporated into a development. This slide is about the current zoning for the properties all around the island. The property zoning is a layer under the general plan, and it includes specific development standards. So this is where the nuts and bolts of development happen. The 2016 Development Code added the Island Body Beach Zoning District, which is here shown in this light white color. And it again wraps almost all the way around the island itself and along a portion of the shoreline. And most of the state-owned land has that zoning, the Island Body Beach. Some of the goals of that zoning district include making the city's natural, historic, and recreational resources publicly accessible. It also encourages high-quality development, and it promotes site and building designs that conserve and accentuate the natural landscape. To help achieve these goals, the zoning of that district requires a minimum of a 15-foot public easement providing access along the shoreline and at least 40-foot view corridors between any primary buildings. And then just in summary, in the 35-year island planning timeline, opportunities to acquire shoreline access easements have not presented themselves, largely because there's been no significant development along the shoreline. It's all been owned by the state. Even the properties that are developed, the Islander, Beachcomber, the Nautical, and Crazy Horse are all state-owned properties that are leased, so they're not privately held. The pending state auction of the previous nautical golf course on the island may trigger more interest in private acquisition and development of other state-owned properties along the shoreline. This may allow opportunities to acquire public access to and along the shoreline through the Body Beach Island zoning development standards. Based on this, it seems appropriate for the council to reaffirm their position on the preservation and enhancement of public recreational use of and access to the lake shoreline of the island. That concludes staff's presentation. Open any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris, and thank you for bringing this item forward. Lake Havasu City has a long history and tradition of ensuring that our shoreline is protected for open access and open public access. And so what we're here to discuss is reaffirming that as a council to ensure that public access remains the same with the proposed resolution that we do have in our packet for consideration this evening. What that does is it reaffirms that that's the city's direction is to ensure that we have access for public at our shorelines. Some of the amazing things that have happened because of this long tradition is the connectivity from the London Bridge to Rotary Park. That is because of public access. It's not held by the city, but there's public access and hundreds of people use that on a daily basis. Rotary Park itself, for those of us that have lived here a long time, that was Mud Shark Beach and not accessible to the public, and that is another area that has been there. And some of the connectivities that have happened. Again, as Mr. Morris said, there haven't been really avenues or opportunities on the island because there haven't been any large sales. There have been auctions, but they're still under the control of Arizona State Land Department for the intended use of whatever that auction was for. In this case, the Islander, Beachcomber, the marina, the nautical, those types of uses. So tonight we do have a resolution drafted that we can consider for that reaffirmation of our support to keep our shoreline open and accessible for citizens for generations to come. But with that, I'll open it up to any questions that any members of the council have of Mr. Morris or for discussion before we open the public hearing. Councilmember Dolan?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
No, I think that's good. Definitely seeing the zoning the way it is. It's good to bring that up to people that are considering developing right now. If you buy it, you can put a golf course on it. Any changes other than that have to come before council, which is a very public process. So just there's been some confusion about what people can and cannot do. I'm a big advocate of, if you own the property and you're allowed to do that, you're allowed to do that. So right now you could put in a golf course or do an open air, do park. But it is a little limiting. So I hope the people that are looking to invest take that into consideration, just because it is such a valuable piece of land out there. But it is zoned for that. So anything different than that has to come before council. So,
yeah, thank you. Vice Mayor Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, Luke, congratulations. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you, and thank you for all the help that you've given me about zoning over the years. It truly is appreciated, and I hope you really enjoy your retirement. When it comes to the resolution, since Lake Havasu was formed, the people have said, we want access along the shoreline. We want access along the shoreline. And I think all of the councils along the history of this city have reaffirmed that. And it's the right thing to do. And I think it's our turn to do that same thing. And not only do I think it's a good idea, I do think it's the right thing to do. So thank you for putting this together so quickly. It was just a few weeks ago we asked you to do that, and you did. So thank you for that, and for all the hard work that you've done on this and other things. Thank you.
Are there any additional comments before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Steve Greeley. I appreciate the resolution, you taking this up and having a public hearing on it. I appreciate the comments from Mr. Dolan and Mr. Lane and Mr. Morris. Thanks for putting this together. I appreciate that. I'm going to go in a little bit different direction, just a little bit different. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I think the council needs to consider. The 2016 general plan had an area for island open space. And part of that general plan, open space for the island, quotes, additional access to the shoreline can only be assured in perpetuity through the acquisition of lands or access rights along the shoreline and in the island's interior. The editorial, if you read it in today's newspaper, called for the reestablishment of the Shoreline Acquisition and Preservation Commission. I could not agree more. This could lead to an updated island-specific plan, or better yet, an island preservation plan. I do believe that the city should participate in the auction. Make it known that the city wants the property to remain open space for recreational opportunities and bid the appraised value of $7.4 million. As the city continues to grow, the acquisition of the property will provide much needed land for recreation in perpetuity. Once again, going back to the general plan, additional access to the shoreline can only be assured in perpetuity through the acquisition of lands. With city ownership, the shoreline would be preserved. You can partner with the private sector for recreational opportunities like an indoor tennis and pickleball center, and maybe even Top Golf. Mr. Dolan, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I think he alluded to that bidders have a great deal on the line. They must have a great deal of confidence, too, if they're going to bid on this land and be the winning bidder, that it will be rezoned to accommodate development, which will privatize the shoreline. And it's something that will break a glass ceiling that we have in our community. If development happens, there are many questions and a few stand out. Is there proper infrastructure to accommodate hundreds of homes? What percentages of those homes will become vacation rentals? Is a second bridge in our future? The safety of our residents and visitors with the addition of high-level traffic over London Bridge and on the island, that could cause a problem. There is roughly 16,000 acres of undeveloped property of state trust land in and around Lake Havasu City. I'm not very good at math, so you might want to fact check that, but my research says there's about 16,000 acres. Surely land away from the shoreline can be bought for additional housing options. City staff has been quoted saying that the city has no interest in the auction. I think we need to hear from our elected officials and your position on having the potential of hundreds of privately owned homes along the shoreline or preserving all available shoreline for the public like we have done for nearly 60 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Obviously, shoreline's very important to us and has been for many generations. And councils long before us and what we're considering tonight have been leaders to ensure that we have that. Anyone that's looking to purchase the current property that's up for auction knows that we're having this public hearing or has access to it. It's a public meeting that can understand that shoreline acquisition is really important to us. When it comes to this particular piece of property, from my perspective, there's the way I look at shoreline acquisition or shoreline access for citizens is properties in which we as citizens use on a regular basis. So Body Beach. That Beach, for those of you that don't know what that is, it's actually called That Beach over on the island. Site 5, some of these areas that are really used from a recreational perspective on an everyday basis. And certainly for many decades, citizens golfed out on this particular parcel of land, but it wasn't a parcel of land in which they that holds a high plateau for people that I hear from, and in my years of living here and growing up here. But in addition, this particular parcel has access to shoreline, but it's maybe a third of the total property perimeter is that, with some topography that has really large bluffs and really rocky beaches in those areas. So certainly that should be preserved, which our general plan dictates that. This resolution would dictate that for whatever happens out there. But as Mr. Dolan had mentioned, the only opportunity right now is a golf course without going through a public process, which every property owner has that right to do through the Planning and Zoning Commission and, of course, the City Council. But that's my perspective on this particular parcel. Shoreline, yes, and the shoreline needs to be preserved for direct access for citizens to use. And hopefully whatever is proposed and goes through the public process, if it makes it that far, is something that citizens can be proud of, that they would go down and actually use this area and be able to recreate in this area. I don't know if any other council members have any thoughts or opinions. Vice Mayor Lane?
I was just going to make a motion,
Oh, please.
unless somebody has comments.
Does any other comments from members of the council? All right, Vice Mayor Lane.
I move to adopt resolution number 23-3703, supporting the preservation and enhancement of public recreational use of and access to the shoreline in Lake Havasu City.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Lane, a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Mayor,
Thank you. Councilmember.
I know
Campbell?
this agenda item was based on the resolution that was right in front of us. So to go out, like Mr. Greeley brought great comments to the table, and I just not sure if it's based on this resolution right here. We're just voting on this resolution. Maybe in the future, I would like to hear a discussion on what does it look like for the city? How do you do it with a budget already in place to be showing up at the auction block with $7 million in your pocket and hope to God you could get it for that, which we probably are expecting it to be higher. I understand his concerns, but I'm not thinking this is the agenda item. That's why I voted yes on the resolution, because it was the right thing to do. So later have a discussion item on purchasing state lands and what does it look like later?
Sure. I mean, so we could have just had that discussion before we voted. I mean, that's what this item is here, is what direction this council wants to have. It's not specific to any one parcel of property, but if that's
the reason why I waited is I just didn't see these two correlating. I thought one was the purchase of state trust land. As a city, do we have a budget for it? Could we afford it? First off, where does the money come from? These are all the questions I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think it was relative for me to bring it up on a resolution that we all agree that we want to protect this state trust land. So I will just leave it at that.
Okay.
I think I've gotten by the nods of the heads and the faces here that this could be something we can bring up for further discussion for the future.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item. Thank you, Mr. Morris, and congratulations on your retirement. We appreciate everything that you've done. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 7.4 is approve the purchase of Forensics X7 scanning system accessories and training from Altera Central. Captain Whitaker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think I'm on. You can hear me, and city staff. Seeking approval for the purchase of a Forensic X7 scanning system with the accessories and training. And let me go over just what it is real quick. The X7 is a system that plots either accident scenes or crime scenes. It's very, very accurate and more precise than what we use now. We use measuring tapes and roller tapes, and that's kind of an old school way of doing it. This is also compatible with Vice Mayor Lane's laughing at that because that's what they used to do. But it's also compatible with our drone system, so we can also get some aerial data collection out of it. And this system is a budgeted item, and I'm asking for approval of purchase of a forensic X7 system, accessories, and training from Altera Central in the amount of $78,449.70. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can on this item.
Thank you. Do any members of the council have any questions for Captain Whitaker? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Koch,
motion?
please.
I move to approve the purchase of Forensics X7 scanning system, accessories, and training from Altera Central, Inc. in the amount of $78,449.70.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 7.5. Approve the cooperative agreement and purchase of Dell network switches from Sterling Computers Corporation. Mr. Basquet.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. All right, so we're getting to a point where we're beginning to approach a time when all of our information technology, the infrastructure, is reaching its end of life. Our equipment runs 24/7, and there's only so many years that it can run 24 hours a day for. Most of the time, we're looking at 5 to 8 years for our equipment to last before we look at whether we're running the risk of letting it fail and then deciding what to do, or if we want to replace it beforehand. So my first item that I'm going to be discussing with you is the city's core network. Our core network is 9 years old. It's basically Ethernet switches that runs the city's intranet. The switches connect the data center to all of the city's operating facilities. The core also connects our 150 users our 150 servers to its users, and is responsible for routing traffic to 800 endpoints, or what we call devices. So to say the least, the core network, it's infrastructure that we don't want to fail, and we want to replace it before it fails. The cost to replace the core network is $142,773.64. And that was a mouthful, so if anyone has any further questions or discussions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Basquet from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. And this is, we'll see a series of items before us that are all budgeted and part of the plan. So this is the IT infrastructure plan that we outlined in our budget process.
Mayor, motion.
Please, Vice Mayor Lane.
I move to approve the cooperative agreement and purchase of network switches in the amount of $142,773.64 from Sterling Computers Corp.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Lane, and we have a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7.6 is approve the cooperative agreement and purchase of Fortinet Wi-Fi solution from Sterling Computers Corporation. Mr. Basquet.
Thank you very much. So our Wi-Fi system is 12 years old. We're currently facing major connectivity issues, and it continues to become unstable. Anyone that comes by City Hall and wants to connect to the Wi-Fi, I'm sure sometimes you may experience issues doing so. IT has put substantial time, resources into our current system to no avail. Our users are provided mobile devices so that they can work anywhere, and they continue to ask for better Wi-Fi in meeting rooms, lobbies, and even in parking lots for those that utilize city vehicles and they need to do their end-of-day reports and things like that for public safety and public works. So we're requesting approval to purchase Fortinet Wi-Fi. Fortinet Wi-Fi is the same manufacturer that provides all of our security for the city, the cybersecurity. So this kind of tailors into that as well. The system will replace 126 access points which is what you use to connect to the Wi-Fi throughout the city. And it will be actually managed on premise. The current system has an actual cost to it because it's managed in the cloud. So we do have to pay a recurring fee for that. So the cost of the new system is $259,380.05. This does include 3 years of support. And due to so many projects going on in IT right now, we are requesting also that includes implementation services to help us get the system implemented. Just as a fact, we do pay $14,000 annually for our cloud subscription for our current Wi-Fi system. So that should offset it a little bit. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions from members of the council?
Mayor, yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Will this integrate with the new courthouse?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Please, just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
David Leslie, just out of curiosity, is that cloud part of the government here in Havasu, or is that like Google or something?
Yeah, Mr. Brescat?
So when we refer to cloud, we refer to a data center anywhere in the U.S. where they host it from. For the most part, when you manage a cloud service, they're going to host it in whether it's Google or Amazon Web Service or whatever data center they have to allow you to manage it from.
Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan.
I have a quick question. Just to clarify, so that is, Jonathan?
Yes, sir.
So that is citywide, so that's every building, fire
Yes, sir.
departments,
Yep.
police
So
stations?
everywhere that
airport?
we have, that we're operating, we even have it in London Bridge Beach too, because we have a lot of city workers down there doing things throughout the day. So we even have a Wi-Fi system down there for them.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Yeah, please.
I move to approve the cooperative agreement and purchase of a Fortinet Wi-Fi system with Sterling Computers Corporation for $259,380.05. Authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and authorize city staff to exercise the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year terms.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7.7 is approve the agreement for the purchase of a new phone system from Allo Communications. Mr. Brescat.
Thank you. Last one. So we're requesting approval to replace the city's voice over IP phone system. The current system is a fully premise-based Mitel system located in our data center. It doesn't allow remote access for our users who are working mobile. So it kind of works against us there. The system was installed in 2012, and we've been informed that Mitel, the vendor, will no longer support the system going forward at the end of this year. Essentially, they're wanting everyone to upgrade to cloud-based systems. So we have to decide which direction we want to go. As it stands, city IT is constantly fixing phone failures. Replacement phones are becoming extremely hard to find because of their age. Over the past several months, we've been going through numerous vendors, evaluating different systems, and based on the public safety aspect of our system, which is pretty unique, there are some requirements that they can't meet. After all the requirements were done and all the testing, we decided to move forward. We would like to move forward with a system called Metaswitch. It's sold by Allo Communications. It meets the needs of the city and is within budget. The system is considered a hybrid model, which makes it unique for us and allows us to operate for our public safety. It is in the cloud for management. It allows you to work from home as if you were at your desk. But it's also a premise-based module is built into it so that in the event the phone system goes down, our internal phones within the city will still operate. Public safety, it meets the needs for transferring phones from the non-emergency side to the 911 side. That was another important aspect of the system that a lot of them can't meet. So based on all of those different requirements and the fact that Metaswitch and Allo can meet those needs, we would like to ask that we move forward with them. The total cost is $119,216.50. We do have a reoccurring monthly charge for hosting and support of $5,405. Be happy to just answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the council? Councilmember Moses?
Yeah. Were there any other companies that met all of our requirements?
Yes. Cisco met our requirements, but it was out of our budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor?
Councilmember Campbell?
I have a question or concern, maybe for the council to understand what is going on. My husband is part of the construction FEMA group.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but basically it's a contractors that we sign a contract that put us in a FEMA alert position. So if the city has a problem, and we usually have zero concerns or complaints about it, because I think the last time we had one was about 11 years ago. And just recently, we had a FEMA alert, a break in the city, and the city contacted the FEMA alert system and the contractors on the list. And it all came in as like a mobile phone device at 2:00 in the morning, which it didn't say like FEMA alert or FEMA contractor alert. So we bypassed it. Come to find out later that they went down the whole list, and it was literally every one of them. It just showed a cell phone number at 2 a.m. And most of us, they didn't leave a text. They didn't leave a voice message saying, this is the city, we need your assistance. So if we can kind of take this new, and I know I've spoke with Mr. Knudsen already about this, and I'm only saying it out loud because I find that to be incredibly important, that if we do have FEMA contractors on the list, we need to get people together and have that communication so that makes sure that never happens again. I don't expect us to ever have a problem. Like I said, it was 11 years ago. The last time we had a female alert at FEMA, it's not a female. We had no female alerts, thank God. FEMA. So do you understand my question or concern?
Totally understand what you're saying. And as Allo is implementing the system, part of the requirements is to work with them on that, on how the alerting works and the phone routing takes place.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Yeah, Mr. Basket, there's someone, yeah.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, I'm Bonnie Toy. Hi, council. I have a question about the whole phone system thing. And that was one, I heard Cameron ask, or Mr. Moses ask about other companies. So I was wondering, how do other companies get to be on the list of approved communications that are possible of doing all this other stuff besides the ones that you have?
Yeah, good question. So we have, there's a state procurement code for when we buy really anything. And in this case, Mr. Besca and IT went out to bid for it. And my understanding was there just two, Mr. Besca, that met our qualifications, Cisco and Allo. Yes. And the low bidder that provide those services are Allo Communications in this instance that met our budget.
Okay, but what if there are other companies in town that would come in at a less cost?
They didn't bid on it. So you have to go through the procurement code dictates how that's out there. So if they didn't bid on it to create that opportunity for them, that's not something we can consider.
Okay, how would they find that information out? Where would they go? When would that come up to bid for them? Where would they find that information out?
Yeah, so it's public notice. So they would have a public notice, and those firms generally have staff members dedicated to this type of work, going out to find governments or businesses that are in the market for something.
Okay, well, I was just curious about it. So I had went to the city's website for the public notices for that, and I did not see anything listed about that. Then today, this afternoon, I went to the newspaper's website to look for public notices. And on my phone, when I looked for it, it said public notices, page not found. There were nothing about public notices in the newspaper. Now, if I was a company looking for that information, If I can't find it at the city website and I can't find it at the newspaper, which are supposed to be public notices, where would I find it? And how would I find out? And what if you are missing companies that are available to do that work and you don't know it?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're following the procurement code. So I appreciate your comment, but I don't have anything additional to offer you in that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? Yeah, please, just make your way to the podium.
David Leslie again. Is that the system we're talking about, Wi-Fi? A number of years ago, they ran cable down in Rotary Park, and like they put these little antennas on street lights. So if a typical family comes here, they can access the best restaurants, hotels, where to go. I mean, is that why that system was put in?
No, we're talking about two different things. Right now, we're talking about a phone system.
Okay.
And then the previous item was Wi-Fi. That's just for city needs for our city employees and the infrastructure we need from a Wi-Fi perspective, our police office, firefighters, public works folks, and the remote people that work throughout the city.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
I was talking about, I noticed when you walk around in Rotary Park on some of the street lights down there, I believe, they're little antennas.
Mm-hmm.
Now that provides the Wi-Fi for people that come to town here. I mean, I'm sure they can get on the phone and look up restaurants. But is that why, are those antennas that I see down in Rotary Park in that area? Is it?
I can address that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Please.
And has it been effective? I mean, is it a payoff to businesses that if they want to look things up? I mean, is that a good investment?
So there's two systems that you're thinking about. One, you see little antennas. That's actually our carbon monoxide monitoring system. So we monitor carbon monoxide and gases down there. But there's also antennas for Wi-Fi. That is for employees. So when they're logging into systems and they need to do work and they need to get work orders and things like that from the different systems within the city, they can log on via Wi-Fi. So the city's not actually having to purchase Verizon cards and pay all these cellular fees for them. That's why there's Wi-Fi down there, because there's a lot of employees that work in those areas. So that's for employees only.
Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? Yeah, please. Just make your way to the podium. State your name for the record, please.
My name is Brian Gagnon. I'm a resident here. I just have two questions. One, Allo's doing all the fiber optic network in town, right?
Yes.
Are you at all concerned about being tied in everything into one company like that, or would diversity in that subject be better? And second question is, it's a hybrid system, these phone systems. So you're storing information in the cloud, and is it true you're storing everything also copied in a hard drive?
Yeah, so the system with the hybrid system, it allows us to have a phone service if the cloud were to go down or those types of things. We still have internal communications that are happening within the system. When it comes to Allo Communications, they're the authorized retailer for the system. So they didn't actually manufacture it or make it. They're the authorized retailer. Okay. Mitel actually was purchased from Frontier when Frontier was in the community. So gotcha. One of the reasons that Mitel's not having support is because of the relationship that.
My question's in reference to like 911 calls. They'd be recorded in both places?
Yeah, Mr.
So just to let you, 911 we have no control over the 911 system. So this has nothing to do with 911. 911 is a state mandated system. There's contracts awarded. For instance, AT&T has the 911 contract for Mojave County. The only thing that we have the possibility of doing is handing off calls to 911. Excuse me. The phone system that we're talking about is totally separate from the 911 system.
The calls that come into the city that are recorded, aside from 911, those will be recorded in the cloud and on site?
Just in the cloud.
Just in the cloud. So you would have no on-site recordings of anything in case something happened?
Yeah, I'm just learning they're recorded. So, Mr. Basket, I don't know what.
Yes, it's for storage purposes. It's encrypted and stored in the cloud.
Okay, so how would you record a phone call if the system goes down and you're not accessing the cloud and it's an internal system?
So it's internal phones will work if the system goes
They'll
down.
work,
So
but-
I can call internally so I could call the city manager and talk to him. I could not call you at your home 928 at that point, but internal phones would continue to work.
Got you. So no one would be able to call into that.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. That was it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for any additional discussion
Mayor.
or motion. Councilmember Moses?
I move to approve a perpetual agreement with Allo Communications to purchase a new voice over IP phone system with a one-time price of $119,216.50 and an ongoing monthly cost of $5,405 per month, plus applicable taxes and long-distance charges.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses and a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7.8 is award a bid to Pioneer Earth Movers, Inc. for the Palo Verde Boulevard South, Industrial Boulevard, and Kiowa Avenue pavement rehabilitation. Mr. Wolf?
Mayor, should I recuse?
Yeah,
I will
Councilmember
be
Campbell?
recusing.
Yeah,
Thank
please.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to offer up an award recommendation for the industrial street project that was recently bid. But I'm going to start out here with a little pavement program overview that we've had ongoing since last year. The first one is a group of projects identified in the priority array planning last year. It was about 10.24 million. What council had also given to the streets program last year and transferred. Additionally, we're looking ahead at projects identified for the fiscal year 24-25 program, currently in the CIP for 9.57 million. We've had an opportunity here for projects identified for fiscal year 25-26. That's a legislative funding value coordinated through the MPO. That's 13.28 million. So we've got a pretty healthy 3-year program here. Projects further down the list for the 25, 26, and even stringing into the 27 as the paving program is just set up for about 13 million. So we'll be back here looking for more. This is just a reminder. I believe that a lot of you may remember it. It's how we set up the priority program with the color-coded projects here. Currently, before you tonight will be the ones highlighted in green here on Industrial, Kiowa, and a piece of South Palo Verde. What is under construction and caused a little bit of eyebrows to raise on what we're doing down there is on London Bridge Road, this area right here. It's currently being paved now. We plan on being in there in the next couple of weeks, for the next couple of weeks before we can finish what I'm terming the S-curve section of London Bridge Road. And then the next up that you'll be seeing an award recommendation pretty soon. We just got 100% bid documents to go out to bid and advertise for the City Core Streets project. That's all those identified in yellow. It's a big project, a heavy undertaking in our city core. However, we'll be out on the street on that here shortly. And then this long run that we've identified here in the blue is the up-and-coming project. We identified it up here in the 24 program. We're currently getting underway with design on this section, which is a section of Lake Havasu Avenue, and this long run of Mesquite Avenue from Acoma to Lake Havasu Boulevard, Lake Havasu Avenue. rough draft of this stuff that we're putting together right now for various reasons. This is the overview of the 24-25 9.57 I've showed you, giving you an idea where the projects are. Again, color-coded. Lake Havasu Avenue, Industrial, and Acoma are highlighted down here in this little yellow area, kind of centralized in the core and commercial industrial. The second project is the one I just identified for Mesquite, that funding. And then Kiowa Avenue here in green, starting from where we left off here with tonight's award and taking it down Kiowa to this upper section here. That's being teed up, as I said. The blue is set up for design. It's underway with design right now. This is what we currently put together with work and coordinating with the Streets Division. Bill and his crew over there really put together a good priority array for based on traffic, based on pavement condition, and based on the type of area or type of street. What they come up with, we've combined up sections that they've recommended for improvement into 4 projects. One being primarily the upper reach of Kiowa, 2 being the upper reach of McCulloch, and 3 being more on the south side for Jamaica. And then finally 4 is an area we tried to jump into last year. It was just too much and got the Smoke Tree and Swanson Loop in here. That's all went to the legislature for funding. I think schedule for that is July to the governor. So tonight, with that little update, I'll be open for questions of any of that if you'd like, but tonight is the Industrial Kiowa South Palo Verde Paving Award. The project was identified, as I indicated last year. It involves the heavy and industrial commercial use in that corridor. We are implementing concrete pavement at the intersections. We're seeing a lot of pushing and shoving, well, pushing of the pavement and poor surfacing. So we're going with concrete in that area. And then replacing a section of water main is also included. This is just an idea. You guys have seen this slide before. We're getting our mileage out of it, so to speak. Shows the grinding or cold milling or roto-milling. There's several terms. And then the overlay operation to get hot mix down. And then, of course, water mains that get replaced with our updated pipe. So the action tonight is to award the construction contract to Pioneer Earth Movers, Inc. of Lake Havasu City, Arizona for the base bid plus force account in the amount of $1.462,816. And we're open for any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wolf. The first question is just on your bid sheet that you have here. There was 2 bidders, it looks like, and there was a considerable difference between the 2. If you have any thoughts on why that occurred?
None directly, although we did look at the pricing. Their pricing for asphalt was significantly higher than our local supplier was bidding. And then other pricing that we noticed was significantly out of line with what we would normally expect in the industry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for members of the council? Yeah, Mr. Knutson?
Mr. Mayor,
comment? Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for the presentation. As a point of clarification, the dollars that we're looking for in terms of the funding for the projects that have been identified, that's all within the city's budget. So we've last session we pursued dollars through our legislative partnerships for some funding to add to the city's road program. But all the projects, Mr. Wolf, that you identified are all within the city's budget. So that's the project moving forward. There's no existing legislative action that's out there. There'll be a lot of effort and a lot of goodwill and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that will occur through the next legislative session. And maybe we can augment or add to the program that we have here in Lake Havasu City. But nothing that the projects that described And hopefully it's at 24, 25. Hopefully we're talking about, 23, 24 and keeping that ball moving with some road projects so within this current year. So I just want to make sure that the council understands that we're talking about city funds, and then we'll have some blood, sweat, and tears that occur in legislative session here in only a few months.
Yeah, thank you.
I would just add, you just reminded me, there's late coming coordination right now for that legislative funding request. We've got the ADOT is wanting to coordinate with us on the bridge, falls, spring wash, the bridge that's a little washboardy, I'd call it, or presents a surfacing issue going over that bridge right now that we're asking to be coordinated with improving that surface.
Yeah, Councilmember Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, can you, so we put in our budget for 2.1, and so there's a difference like $637,000. Can you just remind, does that just roll over then into the next project?
In the roads fund,
Yeah.
that will stay in the budget, and then they'll identify as we go through the additional roads that we'll be doing this year. Then we'll be able to do more roads through that process.
That's
the
great.
savings.
As Mrs. Toy was asking earlier about the bidding process, I'm really glad that we do it this way, because there was a difference of $1.7 million from the lowest and highest bid. So there's a reason that we do this. So I think we're getting a really good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Vice Mayor Lane?
Thank you. And I was going to ask the same question you asked because it's such a significant difference. What was the engineer's estimate on this? Do you know? Just off the top of your head. I didn't see it in the documents. I was just.
I believe we had $2 million budgeted for this particular project. So that gains that we did get really good bid prices on this project, and we'll be able to put more hot mix down because of it.
Yeah, I saw one of the big parts was the mobilization costs to bring somebody in. So.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Any additional questions from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Dolan?
Motion.
Please.
I move to award the bid for Palo Verde Boulevard South, Industrial Boulevard, and Kiowa Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation Project to Pioneer Earth Movers Incorporated in the amount of $1,462,816.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries with 6 council members voting yes and 1 council member recusal.
Thank you. All right, and then our final public hearing of the evening is item 7.9, award bid to Perco Rock Company for the Daytona Wash Reach 4. Mr. Wolf.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'd like to start out and introduce our civil engineer at the city, Sean Clark. Sean Clark started here 6 months ago and stepped into the civil engineer role for the city. His previous experience with Hawaii DOT and local consulting engineering. He graduated from San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, am I right? And has been assisting the engineering division ever since he got here. We've asked him to present, and he's worked hard on this particular project for Daytona Wash 4, and we decided to make sure he can represent us well here tonight too.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wolf, and welcome, Mr. Clark.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm presenting Daytona Wash Reach 4, the recommendation for award. A little bit of background about this project. Based on wash stabilization study in 2015, the Daytona Wash Reach 4 project was prioritized as number 7 in the top 10 washes having critical need for improvements. Our engineering design is focused on the following: constructing a more stable channel profile, reducing channel scour and erosion by reducing stormwater velocities, control lateral bank erosion with riprap embankments, reduce risk for adjacent property by ensuring slope stability, facilitate wash maintenance, ingress, egress for Public Works Department's maintenance personnel. Up in this exhibit above, you can see the limits of the base bid and the bid alternative. Some of the existing site conditions, we have 2 washes meeting at a confluence, creating localized scour. The erosion occurred at the toe of the embankments. Sediment transport to downstream facilities was found in our HECRIS modeling. In the upper right, you can see the green wash confluence, and in the lower left, you can see the side bank grade control with slope stability issues in the lower left. The number 1 trapezoidal channel section shows riprap with geofabric underneath to protect the slopes, and number 2 shows a concrete channel. We had the following permits: U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permitting, nationwide permit 14, biological review per the Endangered Species Act, cultural resource compliance per AZ SITE database, ADEQ 401 certification for the wash construction. For the bid award, we had 2 competitive public works bids received on the Daytona Wash Reach 4. We had Perco Rock Company and Hawk LLC. The engineer's estimate for the base bid was $1,817,408. The base bid plus the alternate was $2,536,127. The low bid for the base bid was $1,978,474. For the base bid plus the alternate was $2,464,080. The CIP budget was $2 million out of the flood control funding. The award recommendations that we're presenting to you tonight is for the base bid plus force account for Daytona Wash Reach 4, projected to be awarded to contract number 500391 to Perco Rock Company in the amount of $1,978,474.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Are there any comments or questions from members of the council? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Dolan?
Motion.
Please.
I move to award the bid for the Daytona Wash Reach 4 to Perco Rock Company in the amount of $1,978,474.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Vice Mayor Lane. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Mayor, it sure is nice to see these bids starting to go below our estimated budgets.
Yes, it is.
That's big.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item 8 is our call to the public. This is where citizens have an opportunity to address the city council with items within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. There's a light indicator box next to Ms. Williams. Green means that you have time. Yellow means you have 1 minute remaining, and red means that your time is up. We ask that when you go to the podium, you state your name for the record, and you also address the city council directly. During call to the public, unfortunately, we can't have a two-way conversation because the items are not on the agenda. So we can listen intently. We can give direction to staff or respond to any criticism that may be made. You don't have to sign up for call to the public, but we did have citizens sign up. So we'll go in that order of the citizens that signed up, and then we'll open it up to others. So first we'll start with Margaret Lewis. No. Okay. Thank you. Next is Karen Vanderjack.
Good evening, Council. Karen Vanderjack. Okay, I know why Margaret didn't come up here to speak, because our mayor was gracious enough to explain that, oh, by the way, for the rest of you who don't know the conversation, there's a number of people here that aren't here tonight because we know COVID Part 2 is coming, and it's been all over the news. It's not something that is some kind of theory or anything. It is coming, and which is going to mean the usual. And Margaret went to the mayor tonight and shared what she was going to talk about, I guess. And the mayor clarified. He goes, "Well, we can't do that because our governor, if she does that, then we can't do that because it hasn't been legislative," which is correct. That's correct. But I have two problems with the response, because you're not addressing the fact that we're not just dealing with the governor, we're not dealing with legislation, we're dealing with corporates. Corporates come in and they tell their customers, they tell their employees that they have to be masked up or be vaccinated or whatever they tell them to do. And I'm talking the hospitals and everybody. And then that's a problem, because then when people choose not to wear a suffocation device in a local store, then what can they do? Well, they call the police. I know, because they called the police on me. So I know you can't deny that. And of course, the police knows that you can't arrest people for not wearing a mask. So what they do is they go to trespassing. And now we're breaking, another law, because we have a thing called public accommodation. When you are a business, if you're a private business and you have membership like Costco or the golf court or whatever thing you're involved in, then yes, then you can have your rules because you have contract with the people that are members of that organization. But when you are a business, then you have to do a public accommodation. And if you don't, then that's a form of discrimination. You're now breaking the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So you're breaking a law. So now you're in a dilemma right now. Do we break the law? Or do we just let this go? What do we do? So you're putting your police officers and everybody in a sticky situation. If you don't clarify, we're not going to make any calls at all. We're not even going to do trespassing, because trespassing doesn't really apply here. Okay, that's all I'm going to say then.
Thank you. Stephen Tuminello.
My name is Steve Tuminello. I'm a resident of Lake Havasu City, media relations for the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Survivor of the pandemic of 2020 because I refused to wear a suffocation device or inject my body with a documented and proven bioweapon posing as a vaccine. I think that's all been proven at this point. Unfortunately, residents of this city and all around the world have died or had their life shortened because of decisions made by federal, state, county, and city governments. I hope and pray that we do not deal with this again here in Mojave County and here in Lake Havasu. You know, Constitution Week is coming up this week. I'm one of the promoters and sponsors working with Tom Goodfellow, who's the creator of Constitution Week. So I think it's very timely that this is happening. You know, the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2, states that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I'd like to give you an example of how the behavior should be when you're tempted to take the CARES Act money I met last year the new president of the Arizona State Sheriff's Association, Sheriff David Rhodes of Yavapai County, our next door neighbors in the Prescott area. And I was really impressed with Sheriff Rhodes because he refused to take any of the CARES Act money, the bribe money, because it came with strings attached, with a contract that he must sign that he had to obey and enforce illegal and unconstitutional mandates and executive orders, and he refused to do that because the oath to the Constitution was very sacred to him. And I hope that everyone on this city council and our mayor will remember this story about Sheriff Rhodes, because he's one of the few people that I know in our part of the state that actually took his oath seriously enough not to comply. It's very important that we don't participate in this again for round 2. So please remember to honor your oath, and please come to our Constitution Week next Sunday, the 17th. We're going to have Tina Peters as the keynote speaker on Sunday when Carrie Lake will be there for her book signing. So we hope that you'll all come and attend and start taking your oath to the Constitution more seriously this go around when we have Plandemic 2 happening, it looks like. I'll have to tell you, I was in California and they're not going to take it over there. They're pushing back. There's a lot of resistance in California, so I hope we'll do the same here in Northwest Arizona. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tom Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow.
Good evening, council members. First, thank you for your service. I've done what you've done. It's not easy and it's a little time consuming, so I'm grateful for what you're doing. I'm here to first talk to you about Constitution Week, September 17th to the 23rd. We have 6 speakers in 6 days. We do have Carrie Lake. Our event is from 1 to 3 on Sunday. We are not affiliated with the Carrie Lake book signing. That's not part of our event. We're from 1 to 3. So just to clarify that. Just to highlight our discussion items for this year, we're going to be talking about the border and the border reality, what's really going on. We have somebody coming comes from the border, bordernews.com. We're also going to be talking about the Federal Reserve and election integrity. We're going to be talking about democracy versus a republic, which I think has really gotten lost in translation. And we're going to be talking about the origins of the Constitution. We are also going to have an exhibit there called the Great Seal. That's the seal, the presidential seal that you see, and there's a lot of history behind that. And that's an exhibit that I've been working on and have obtained. We are 100% sponsor supported. There's no payroll. It's truly a We the People project or a week. So, and I would like to mention that our business community has been extremely gracious and very giving and behind this event. And I would also like to say that I think I would have to say that they're upset because the Constitution, from their perspective, is not being followed. It's being violated. And that's pretty unanimous. I mean, they just shake their heads when I go to talk to them about sponsorship. So I just wanted to share that with you. And then the only other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the mask thing that might be coming up. And I wrote this just for the sake of speediness. With Constitution Week upon us on September 17th to the 23rd, I often found myself reading quotes from our founding fathers. There is no doubt that these individuals were very wise because they experienced living through...
Yeah, Mr. Goodfellow, if you could wrap up your comments, yes.
Yeah, living through a period of oppression and tyranny. I think there's a a quote that is very important for me to tell you, and it goes like this: "Those who would give up liberty and freedom to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And I think we all need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have one more speaker, but Ms. Williams, the yellow light is not coming on. I don't know if that's a setting or okay, perfect. So the yellow light will now come back on. The next speaker is David Lerner.
Good evening. City Council, my name is David Lerner. I'm a Lake Havasu resident. And I'm here to talk about the last round of the pandemic. And you called things vaccinations that were bioweapons. Okay? We started talking to you in the year 2020 and telling you everything was wrong about this pandemic. We were right about the lab leak. We were right about the natural immunity. We were right about the masks. We were right about the lockdowns. We were right about the vaccines. We were right about the boosters. We were right about faking the COVID numbers. We were right about the ivermectin. We were right about the deadly hospital protocol, which we saved people at that hospital. We were right about the evil Dr. Fauci. We were right about the evil World Health Organization. We were right about it being a world power grab. We've been right. The government's been wrong. The county's been wrong. The city has been wrong. We're not locking down. We're not wearing masks. We're not going through this a second time. Not for anybody. We're not. We, the people, are also entitled to recover damages for injury because of the deprivation of any right or privilege that has been done to us that is against the Constitution of the United States of America, the Republic. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, that concludes our speakers that have signed up. Would anyone else like to address the City Council during call to the public? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record.
David Leslie, they did a pretty good presentation. Yes, I do agree. COVID 2.0 is on its way. And I'm not going to bow down, and I don't think the city should either. There's a lot of people out in the city that do have that fear, and they don't know quite what to do. And I have faith that the police, I think Ms. Vanderjack said that what can a business person do if they don't wear a mask? I guess say you're trespassing, and hopefully the police won't get sick on go after these people that refuse to bow down to the federal government. I mean, there's fear. So I think there are some lessons learned from COVID 1.0. So I hope this round goes a lot better. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, this is still a business meeting, so we're not to clap in the things. Please state your name for the record.
Cindy Johnson. I wanted to share with you a news release dated August 30th, 2023, from Arizona House of Representatives, Representative Joseph Shapling, I believe is his last name. Are mask mandates making a comeback? Not in Arizona. In April 2021, the governor signed HB 2770 into law, a bill empowering businesses with the freedom to decide whether or not to observe and enforce any mask mandate imposed by government politicians from the state, county, civil, city, town, or other jurisdictions in Arizona. The next April, another bill, HB 2616, was signed into law prohibiting school districts and local government from requiring minors to wear a mask or face covering without parental consent. This just came down last month. I wanted to share that with you, let you be aware, let you know that we're also aware of it. Havasu News, dated January 18th, 2021, our view, Mojave County is already a constitutional safe space, but 1776 resolution can't hurt. If you remember, we brought that before you, then it was voted down. Well, it went to the county. At first blush, it seems kind of ridiculous that we'd even think about designating Mojave County as a constitutional sanctuary. The U.S. Constitution, after all, is already the supreme law of the land. And each elected official, upon taking office, has taken an oath to defend it. And I know that some of you have taken that oath more than once. Today's newspaper. FDA approves update coronavirus vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. And I know my time is limited. I want to just tell you that this is coming out the middle of this month, which we are there. That's what Biden's administration predicts. Pfizer expects its shots to be available in coming days. Again, these vaccines have not been tested. They have no reports of the results of giving these to humans, and yet they're going to push them again. So I have to say, and it's hard for me to say this to all of you, but I really don't have faith that you're going to do the right thing about this. So please, prove me wrong.
Would anyone else like to address the City Council during call to the public?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Hi, Kelly. And Kelly. I'd like to address you about, I was listening to the Coffee with the Manager, City Manager, and the Mayor on Friday, and some of the things you had discussed during the meeting really brought to my mind how much you guys really need somebody in charge of your Facebook page, because all of the information that you were complaining about, people putting words in your mouth and saying things that you are saying that you don't say, people discuss again and again on Facebook, and yet on the city Facebook page, it never has any clarification or anything that, I mean, we weren't even invited to the city council meeting tonight on the city Facebook page. We weren't. I had to find it out on going to the city website what time it was. It's probably listed in the newspaper. Well, they did have a lot of articles about you guys this week. Also, I really have this huge concern about Bison Boulevard. Do you know that there are several streets that have the title Boulevard in it that are not big enough to be an 84-foot boulevard? I really don't think just because Bison is called a boulevard doesn't mean that it has to be a boulevard. Just want to say that. I mean, Tropic Boulevard is not big enough to be a boulevard. Neither is Chesapeake. And I don't think Riviera is like really long enough to be a boulevard, but yet it's called Boulevard. And I just want to say that on behalf of Bison Boulevard. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the City Council during call to the public?
Tamara Talbot. City Council and Mayor. I just have a question or a concern. I was at the July City Council meeting that we talked about the new water and wastewater rates. And there was the notice of intent to raise rates that went out after that. And it was determined that we were going to have a public hearing on September 26th. Well, I missed the August meeting on the 22nd, and you guys already picked which one of the three that you want to do. I thought you were waiting until the public hearing to get all of that decided. So I'm confused.
Yeah, we gave direction. I can't really respond during this, but come to the meeting next time, and we'll be talking about the
right. But is it that it's already set that that's the only way you guys are going to go, or is it just here? This is what we want. You guys give us the feedback as to what you really want.
We'll have that discussion at that next meeting.
Okay,
but it's not
good, because I have other things for that discussion as well.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the City Council during call to the public? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. On television, when people watch it or the website, they can go directly to the item, and so we have to restate it.
Brian Gagnon. I originally came for this specific reason. The bicycle and pedestrian pathways that go along 95 and around the island they're in desperate need of repair. There's cracks that are 4 to 6 inches wide in those, and the sides are breaking off. And what years ago you used to see guys, gals, roller skating, skateboarding, all the small wheel type transportation, scooters and stuff, they can't travel those anymore. So you don't see them. You see walking and biking, but that's it. A simple slurry coat's not going to do it. They need to be repaved. So you guys might want to think about that. Secondly, after hearing everybody else, I think it's pretty clear that everybody's pretty pissed off about about COVID and all this new thing and the vaccines and stuff. We know that now that they don't work and they're actually detrimental. We're seeing people falling over with heart disease and all kinds of neurological problems. So I myself didn't take the first one. I'm not going to take anything in regards to that, but we're just not going to put up with it anymore. I don't know if you're aware. I mean, our hospital is owned partially by the doctors, and they make you sign that when you come in there that you're acknowledging that the doctors that work there actually own part of the hospital. They get paid through the CARES Act to treat people for COVID. They get paid if they give you a COVID test. They get paid. If you come out positive, they get paid. If you are admitted, they get paid. If you have complications and need other treatments and put in isolation or in critical care, they get paid. Not only from your insurance, but from the CARES Act. If you die, they get paid again from the CARES Act. They're getting paid for the first time in history of the United States to kill people, incentivizing them to kill people. Okay, that's awful. That just should never take place. So I would request that you reject anything involved with the federal government with regard to COVID altogether. The local tribes did not. They took the money. They're required to mask people going down into Parker, and if you wanted to go into the Walmart in there, there was a police officer standing there from the local tribe forcing people to put masks on. That's what you have to do when you accept that CARES money. Don't accept it. It's worthless. It shouldn't be there in the first place. And you're incentivizing hospitals to kill people. It's terrible. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the council during a call to the public? All right, seeing none, we'll close the call to the public and move on to item 9, which is our current events. Are there any council committee reports? Yeah, Vice Mayor Lane.
Thank you. It's not really a committee council report, but it is a current event that I would like to bring up. First, it has to do with that memorial. Mr. Knudsen, thank you for bringing up the fact that we replaced that S on the memorial for the Gold Star mothers, for those that have lost their children to military service. But not everyone that dies in military service actually dies in combat. Every single day, veterans are dying because of suicide. This is Suicide Awareness Month. The other day, I was working on some speeches that I needed to write for 9/11 yesterday, and I was having a very difficult time. And I talked to somebody who's a very large inspiration to me. Her name is Bobby Kimmelton. She's sitting in the back of the room back there. She's our Director of Human Capital Management. She's also the Vice Commander of the state of Arizona for the American Legion. And she's working on a program for veterans called Be the One. And that program is Be the Veteran for the Veteran. When you know there's a veteran in crisis and that veteran needs help, be the one to stand up and say, I'm the one. I'm the one that is going to stand up and I'm going to help somebody. So with that in mind, I'd like to invite everybody on September the 16th. The Havasu Community Health Foundation Suicide Awareness Walk will be down in Rotary Park. If you would like to participate in that, please contact the Havasu Community Health Foundation. And please remember all of those veterans that have lost their life, whether it be to suicide or in combat, and never forget those that we lost on 9/11. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Mayor Lane. From the Mojave County Water Authority, this is a bit of old news, but every August is when the droughts are called and evaluated. We were in a Tier 2A drought this last year. Obviously, the snowpack that we had up in Colorado over the last winter and their flows, it's at Tier 1 for this current year. So we have a little bit of relief as the 7 basin states work together to find a solution for the new interim guidelines that will come out in 2026. So that is an update from Mojave County Water Authority on the drought, that issue we have going on. Any other council committee reports? All right, future meetings. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, September 26th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. It will be a regular meeting. And then on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. we'll also have a regular meeting. Item 11, are there any future discussion items? All right, item 12, entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks for being here. Be kind. We'll see you next time.